The night she called the police on me, the first thing I noticed wasn't the flashing lights or the murmurs of neighbors behind curtains. It was her posture. She stood across the street under a street lamp, rigid and perfectly still, like she'd rehearsed this moment. The HOA Karen, 35 years old, sharp blonde bob cut perfectly level with her jaw, cold, commanding eyes that never blinked too much or too little, dressed even at night in a tailored power red pantsuit over a crisp white shirt. She looked less like a concerned neighbor and more like a prosecutor waiting for the jury to walk in. I'm not an intimidating man by nature, but I know how I look. Tall, well-built, early 40s, just over 6 feet, with a mature face shaped by years of discipline rather than chaos. Dark hair with a touch of gray at the temples, short stubble beard, deep brown eyes that don't rush or flinch. I was wearing neutral, casual clothes that night. Work boots, faded jeans, a plain shirt. Calm on the outside, alert on the inside. I had nothing to hide, but I'd already learned that innocence doesn't stop people like her from writing their own version of reality. My garage was halfway open when it started. Tools neatly arranged, shelves clean, wood stacked for weekend projects. No noise, no smoke, no drama. Just a man finishing up a long day. To me, it was peace. To her, it was a threat. She didn't knock, she didn't ask, she didn't confront me like a normal person. She raised her phone, recorded for a few seconds, smiled thinly, and walked back into her house like she'd just pressed a detonator. 10 minutes later, squad cars rolled in. Here's the first hook that matters. When police show up and you've done nothing wrong, your heart still pounds, not because you're guilty, but because you know you're no longer in control of the narrative. Someone else is telling your story now, and they're telling it loudly. The officers approached carefully, professional, controlled. One asked me if I had weapons in the garage. I answered calmly, no. Another asked why my neighbor felt threatened. I said I couldn't speak for her. Across the street, she watched every word, arms folded tightly against her chest, chin raised, power red suit glowing under emergency lights like a warning sign. She had told them I was hoarding weapons, that I behaved aggressively, that my garage activity made her fear for her life. Each lie delivered with confidence, posture straight, eyes cold. She didn't look nervous, she looked satisfied. They searched, thoroughly, found nothing. No weapons, no contraband, just a quiet, organized workspace and a man who hadn't broken a single rule. The officers apologized, briefly. One even looked embarrassed. But apologies don't erase the looks from neighbors' windows. They don't erase the stain of suspicion, and they don't humble someone like her. She didn't say a word as the police left. She didn't apologize. She didn't even pretend relief. She met my eyes and smiled again, controlled, calculated, like this was only step one. That's when I realized this wasn't about safety, it was about dominance, and people who crave control don't stop when they're proven wrong, they escalate. So I went quiet. For weeks, I didn't react. I waved politely when I saw her. I nodded during HOA walks. I lived my life exactly as before, calm, predictable, neutral, the kind of man people forget to watch closely. But I watched her. Strong hook again, because this is where the shift happens. The moment you stop defending yourself and start observing, the balance of power changes. Her garage door was always closed, perfectly closed. No daylight, no quick openings, no mistakes. Deliveries came late, unmarked trucks, heavy loads, the kind that made metal clank softly when set down. She would step out in that same red pantsuit, posture rigid, eyes scanning the street like a hawk before allowing anything to move inside. The smell was wrong. Not gasoline, not paint, something sharper, industrial, oily. It lingered sometimes long after the trucks were gone. She became more aggressive with everyone, threatening fines, screaming about property lines, accusing neighbors of trespassing if they walked too close to her driveway. Overcompensation, fear disguised as authority. One evening, she finally confronted me. She marched across the street, heels clicking sharply, shoulders squared, eyes locked onto mine like she was entering a boardroom showdown. She accused me of watching her, of recording her, of plotting retaliation for the police incident. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't deny too much. I just looked at her calmly, deep brown eyes steady, and told her she was imagining things. That rattled her. People like her feed on reaction, on fear, on anger. Calm is poison to them. For the first time, I saw uncertainty crack through her rigid posture. She stormed off. 2 nights later, she made her biggest mistake. Another call, louder accusations. This time, she told dispatch she heard automatic weapons, that she believed violence was imminent, that she feared she might not survive the night. Words like that don't just bring patrol cars, they bring everything. The neighborhood woke up to armored vehicles, floodlights, shouted commands tearing through the early morning air. For one long, silent second, I wondered if she had finally succeeded in burying me under her lies. Then the focus shifted. The officers moved past my house, straight to hers. Her garage door resisted when they tried to open it, stuck, heavy, like it hadn't moved freely in years. When it finally rolled up, the energy changed instantly. Voices tightened, commands sharpened, radios erupted with rapid communication. I couldn't see inside from where I stood. I didn't need to. I could read the room. I could feel it in the sudden stillness, the way trained men froze when they realized they were standing in front of something far bigger than a neighborhood dispute. She came out screaming. The power red suit suddenly looked like a costume. The rigid posture collapsed into frantic gestures. She yelled about being framed, about conspiracies, about me. Our eyes met. Her cold, commanding stare was gone. In her place was raw fear. And in that moment, she understood something she never expected. I had never called the police. I had never accused her. I had never touched her garage. I had simply watched her destroy herself. And this still wasn't the revenge. This was just the opening move. When they led her away that morning, she wasn't wearing the power red pantsuit anymore. She'd thrown a coat over it, like fabric could hide panic. Her sharp blonde bob was out of place, one side tucked back nervously, the other falling forward as if even her hair had lost discipline. Her cold, commanding eyes kept darting, searching for someone to blame, someone to lock onto. When they passed my driveway, she turned her head and stared straight at me. That look wasn't hatred. It was terror mixed with confusion, because nothing made sense to her anymore. The neighborhood buzzed for days. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some said they'd found weapons. Others said it was just equipment. Everyone whispered. Everyone speculated. But here's the hook that matters. Authorities come and go. They investigate, they process, they leave. What they don't do is finish the story. And I wasn't done. She came back 3 days later. No charges announced, no explanation given, just her car pulling into the driveway like nothing had happened. The garage door stayed shut, always shut. And suddenly the woman who used to patrol the neighborhood with surgical confidence barely stepped outside. I stayed calm. Same routines, same neutral clothes, same quiet presence. Tall, steady, unremarkable. The kind of man people stop noticing once they think they've already figured him out. But she noticed me. She started avoiding my gaze, turning her head when I walked past, speeding up if she saw me coming down the sidewalk. And when she did have to interact, her posture went stiff again, too stiff, like a broken hinge forced back into place. Here's another hook. When someone tries to destroy you and fails, they don't suddenly become harmless. They become desperate. The HOA meeting that month was the turning point. She walked in late, red pantsuit back on like armor, white shirt crisp, chin high, trying to reclaim authority through appearance alone. I sat near the back, relaxed, arms folded loosely, deep brown eyes watching everything without demanding attention. She pushed for new rules, stricter inspections, mandatory garage access for safety. Her voice was sharp, rehearsed, and just slightly too loud. Control through paperwork. That's when I spoke. I didn't accuse her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even mention her garage. I asked a simple question: whether any board member had ever filed false police reports against a neighbor. The room went silent. Her head snapped toward me. The cold, commanding eyes were back, but now they were glassy, brittle. She demanded relevance, demanded order, demanded I be silenced.
I smiled politely and sat back. And that's when the real revenge began. Not through force, not through authority, but through exposure. I started talking to people, not gossiping, sharing experiences, calmly, casually, one neighbor at a time, about the police call, about the lies, about how easily someone could be targeted if one person decided they didn't belong. I never exaggerated, I never speculated, I just told the truth. And truth spreads faster than fear when people are ready to hear it. Neighbors started watching her the way she used to watch them. Phones came out, not to accuse, but to document. Conversations stopped when she walked by. Smiles faded. Invitations disappeared. She noticed. One evening she confronted me again. This time, not marching, not commanding. She stood at the edge of my driveway, posture stiff but shoulders slightly hunched, red pantsuit wrinkled like it had been slept in. She accused me of turning people against her. I told her calmly that I hadn't done anything she hadn't already done to herself. That broke her. Her voice cracked just for a second. Her eyes flicked toward her garage before she caught herself, and in that tiny moment of weakness, I understood everything I needed to know. The revenge wasn't about what was inside that garage. It was about what she was terrified of anyone discovering next. I began tightening the pressure, subtle, legal, personal. I requested HOA transparency records, meeting minutes, complaint logs. Patterns emerged. Her name everywhere, targeting the same households, the same types of people, anyone who didn't bow. I shared copies, quietly, calmly, no drama. She tried to fight back, accused me publicly of harassment, claimed I was unstable. But here's the hook that keeps people watching. Accusations only work when they come from a position of trust, and hers was gone. The final straw came when she tried to inspect my garage again, unannounced. She stood there, red suit immaculate again, clipboard in hand, eyes cold but shaking beneath the surface. She said it was routine, that she had the authority. I leaned against the doorframe, relaxed, towering over her without trying to. Calm voice, even tone. I told her no. Not aggressively, not defensively, just no. She threatened fines, legal action, police involvement. I smiled and told her quietly that if she involved the police again, everything I knew would become public. Her face drained of color. She stared at me, trying to calculate, trying to assess how much I knew, how far I'd gone. I stepped closer, not threatening, just present, and I told her the truth, that I had no interest in destroying her, but if she ever tried to destroy me again, I would simply let her keep talking. She backed away. For the first time since I'd met her, the HOA Karen turned and walked away without a word. But the story wasn't finished, because fear doesn't stop people like her. It makes them reckless. And recklessness was about to cost her everything.
The last mistake she made wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, rushed, and fueled by fear. And that's always how people like her fall, trying to regain control when they've already lost it. She thought I was bluffing. A week after our driveway conversation, the HOA sent out violation notices across the neighborhood, not just to me. To anyone who had spoken up, questioned her authority, or stopped playing along. Grass measurements off by fractions, trash cans visible for too long, garage usage violations that made no sense. It was retaliation dressed up as procedure. Here's the hook that matters now. When someone is cornered, they stop thinking long-term. They act, and action leaves fingerprints. I didn't fight the notice. I didn't appeal. I didn't send angry emails. I paid it, quietly, calmly, the same way I'd done everything else. And then I waited. Because while she was busy punishing everyone else, she stopped watching herself. Her routine changed. Late nights became frantic nights. The unmarked trucks came back, but this time they stayed longer. Voices rose. Arguments leaked through closed doors. Her sharp blonde bob was no longer perfectly styled when she stepped outside. Her posture, once rigid and commanding, now looked forced, like she was holding herself together through willpower alone. One night, she snapped. She sent an email to the entire HOA list. Not a notice, not an update, a warning. She accused unnamed residents of harassment, claimed she was being targeted, claimed there were forces trying to destroy her reputation. She demanded loyalty, compliance, silence. That email was the end, because fear makes people over-explain, and over-explaining reveals everything. I forwarded it, not to authorities, to the neighborhood, along with something else, a timeline, dates of her complaints, dates of police calls, dates of violations issued immediately after disagreements. All facts, all documented, no opinions, no accusations, just patterns laid out clean and undeniable. I didn't write a single angry word. I ended it with one sentence. This is why false power is dangerous. The response was instant. Neighbors replied all. Stories poured in. Threats she'd made, intimidation, targeting. People she'd bullied into silence finally realized they weren't alone. And she realized she was exposed. She came to my house that same night. No clipboard, no red pantsuit, just a coat thrown over wrinkled clothes, eyes wide, posture gone, the cold, commanding stare replaced by desperation. She begged. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. She said she'd been under pressure, that she'd made mistakes, that things had gotten out of hand. She asked me to fix it, to send another email, to calm people down. Here's the final hook. True revenge isn't about crushing someone. It's about refusing to save them from the consequences of their own choices. I listened, calm, silent, deep brown eyes steady on her face. Then I told her the truth, that I wasn't her enemy, that I hadn't planned any of this, that all I'd done was stop reacting and start paying attention. I told her I wouldn't attack her, but I also wouldn't protect her. She understood. She left without another word. The next HOA meeting was packed. She tried to speak, tried to regain authority through volume and posture, but the room had shifted. Power red no longer meant power. It meant exposure. People interrupted her, questioned her, asked for explanations she couldn't give without unraveling herself further. A vote was called. She was removed. No police, no sirens, no headlines, just accountability. She moved out 2 months later. Garage still closed, curtains drawn, no goodbye. The neighborhood changed after that. Quieter, lighter. People waved again. Garages stayed open. Conversations returned. As for me, I kept my routine. Same calm demeanor, same neutral clothes, same quiet presence. Because the lesson wasn't about her. It was about this. You don't defeat people like that by becoming louder than them. You defeat them by staying still long enough for everyone to see who they really are. And once they're seen, they collapse on their own.